So what has become of us? The story continues. Because sometimes we take this route that we don't even realize is going to lead us back home.
We knew you were coming back.
Okay. I had a GPS that was very helpful. But sometimes we need a life GPS. That's much harder, right? And I really had this wonderful opportunity to meet colleagues and leaders of communities that I'd never meet if I didn't have this opportunity to travel across the country, these 14,000 miles. And I was in touch with many, many colleagues in different cities. I remember I was heading to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and about a week prior, I got in contact with one of the rabbis there, a nice man. I had never met him. I know there's a lot of colleagues out there, and some of them I don't know, and some of them I'd heard of. And so this was a gentleman I had not met before, and a very pleasant guy. And I just really was set to go to a coffee shop and talk to him about life in Baton Rouge and what's it like to be a rabbi, particularly in the South. And he said, you're coming next Thursday, right? And I said, yeah, actually I am. He said, once a month on a Thursday, I take a trip to a women's correctional facility and I meet with a conversion student. Would you like to come with me? Well, what has become of me? Of course, why not? At this point, just throw it all to the wind and jumped in his car and we drove across the swamps of Louisiana to this correctional facility. Lots of security. You have to leave everything in the car and lots of security except my ID. And I saw some of the most dangerous women I've ever met. Walking around the facility, I really did think, what has become of me and what am I doing here? I don't really know this rabbi. Who knows what he's planning to do? Is it some kind of initiation for Northeastern rabbis? And anyway, this trip, the sabbatical, this was definitely off the beaten path and not on our itinerary. So how is this moment and this experience going to, bring me home? And so we ended up going through a lot of different doors and security and finally met up with this wonderful, very sweet Hawaiian woman who is working towards conversion. And she was upset because there was another Jew who was in a cell next to her who was a Jew by birth. And she felt sort of inauthentic because she was going through this conversion process. And it was really lovely because the rabbi worked with her, but she actually asked me questions, and the two of us met with her and talked, and she really shared how much Judaism has been such a refuge for her in her life, particularly in prison, a place where you feel so locked up, particularly around Passover, periods of redemption, trying to feel like, how do you sustain yourself in a place that can be oppressive? And yet she found this wonderful home and refuge, safe haven in her Judaism. And that's something that I certainly could identify with. And it was in the moment where I realized, here I am in a women's correctional facility around the swamps of Louisiana, and I'm right at home. I'm here, and this is where I was supposed to be. And these were moments that happened over and over and over again. Sitting with people who I would not necessarily sit with and finding Judaism in the most perhaps unusual of places, but recognizing that by taking those steps and by making the adventure, sometimes it brings you right back home. And that was very special for me. I'll share one more vignette afterwards, but it is a deconstructed sermon evening, but I wanted to share that with you. There's lots of blessings in being away and being on an adventure, and there's many blessings of being here. And We want to recognize Dorothy and Frank Simoji, who are, I think, celebrating a milestone anniversary today. Is that correct? All right. Can I invite you to stand by your seat? Now, I have you as the only folks on the list who are celebrating a milestone, but I could also invite others. If there's anyone else who is celebrating a milestone? Okay. Maybe you are, and maybe you're just doing it within. How many years? 50. This is 50. Is it today? Tomorrow.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
Well, Mazel Tov. So now once you hit 50, you can come back every year. So we hope you do. Absolutely.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehachayanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Blessed are you, God, sovereign of the universe. You give us life and you lift us up and you bring us to these amazing moments. And we are so lucky to be able to acknowledge them with you right here tonight. Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov. We're going to continue with Aleinu L'Shabeach on page 282. Please turn to the bottom of your page as the ark is opened. Please be seated. And so, I'll share with you this last moment, which was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. There are Jews in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And these individuals, most Jews in Jackson Hole are not born in Jackson Hole. They migrate to Jackson Hole. Lots of them come from Minnesota and places with, there were more urban settings, but they couldn't not be in one of the most beautiful settings in the world overlooking the Grand Tetons. So they come to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, to be here and to live amidst beauty. And the first night of Passover, we were actually, before we headed to Rapid City, we were there. And the community was nice enough to find folks for us to dine with on the first night of Passover. And I sat next to a gentleman named Jerry from New York. Replete with New York accent. And Jerry was there because his son and daughter moved to Jackson Hole, and he now has a grandchild. And so he moved from New York to Idaho, right across the border, so he could be close to his grandchildren. And he said, Rabbi, nowhere in my life did I ever think I was going to end up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, this guy who was born in Brooklyn, New York. But my grandson's here, and my children are here, and this is home now. And when I sat with them amidst the brisket and all of the accoutrements that come with Passover, I thought, here I am in the middle of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, but I'm home. And he wanted to be with family. And even though I wasn't with blood family, I was with my nuclear family, it didn't extend so far, I was with them. And together, again, I had arrived in this wandering of where are we? It was home. it was home again. This portable Judaism that I've spoken about. It goes with you wherever you go. And you can create it wherever you need to. And that was really inspirational to me. A place where there's no kosher restaurants and no Jewish community centers and no areas of institutions of higher Jewish learning. These Jews, who don't consider themselves the most observant folks in the world, wanted to live their Passover Seder, wanted to breathe life into their identity, which they've carried with them from everywhere. And so this is us. Judaism is not just lived in a synagogue, in a chapel, or a sanctuary. It's not just lived in homes. It's lived everywhere. And this is our challenge. How do we carry it with us wherever we go? Maintain our identity, our Jewish identity, and carry on the legacy of those who came before us. And so we continue now thinking about the Judaism that was given to us, and we carry it. It's portable from those who came before.